Hi everyone. We're really excited to have our special guest, Dr. John, coming on today. So I'll let everyone join and then we'll get Dr. John on and have a bunch of questions compiled from everyone that has asked questions, and hopefully we'll get to everything. So we'll get Dr. John on and we'll get started. We're just going to add him now. See if he's coming on. There we go. Hi, Dr. John.
Hi, Grayson. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. We have a lot of questions from everyone, and a lot of people say hi too. So.
Oh, good. Okay, perfect. We have friends on then. Good.
Yeah. Well, how about you introduce yourself? I know who you are, but I think everyone else should too. So tell us where you're at and what you do.
Okay, good. Hi, guys. I'm Dr. John Wilhelm. I live in Bozeman, Montana. I'm a certified sports chiropractor and also have a master's degree in sports science and rehabilitation, a couple certificates in international and in U.S. sports chiropractic. I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist, but mostly I just, get all these certifications so I can help athletes do their thing. I've been traveling with teams and been serious about sports chiropractic for about the last about 9 years. I travel with USA Bobsled, I've worked with USA Gymnastics, USA Track and Field, and then a whole host of other individual international athletes and teams and federations. But mostly I love living here in Bozeman, and that's how I first met Grayson. She was training in the Bozeman area and came in for some treatment. And then, we've had a nice doctor-patient relationship since, and when she comes in the area, she comes in for tune-ups, and this last time in with a more significant injury, which I'm sure she'll talk a little bit about. Yeah, but that's me. I have 2 kids, a lovely wife, 2 dogs, 2 cats, and 1 sugar glider. So that's us.
One now. Yeah, I'm glad that we got connected, and it's fun to see you at races too, because you, like you said, with USATF. So I think that's where some of our other hellos came from. Were some other runners out there.
Great.
Yeah, so I guess I would like to say everyone had questions about plantar fasciitis, and I had a plantar tear, so it'll be a little bit different, but I think we'll just ask the questions for plantar fasciitis since that seems to be the more common injury for people.
Sure.
But I think people really want to know what PEMF is, so if you could tell us what that is first, I think that would help.
Okay. Great. So PEMF is an acronym. It stands for Pulsed Electromagnetic Frequency Therapy. So again, that's Pulsed Electromagnetic Frequency Therapy. And like it sounds, it's electromagnetic energy. Basically, it's bursts of low-level electromagnetic energy that radiates energy into damaged tissues. And it basically what it does is it triggers specific repair activities in that damaged tissue. PEMF has been FDA approved in the United States to actually treat non-union fracture healing. So a non-union is when a bone gets fractured, but it's apart. Okay, so it's fractured apart like this. And sometimes it takes a really long time and is a very painful process for fractured bones to heal. And PEMF is one thing that allows, or that orthopedists especially use to get the bones to grow together faster and actually stronger than what they were. Obviously, we weren't using it for broken bones with Grayson, but what we found is that just like it stimulates certain chemicals and electrical signals in bone tissue, it does the same in other tissues, like ligament, like tendon, and like fascia and muscle. And so PEMF, like I said, triggers specific repair activities. And it does that 2 ways. I always say that it affects electricity and chemicals inside of our cells.
That's a good synopsis, and much better than I would have explained it.
I didn't want to get too technical. I mean, if people have technical questions, there's certain chemical cofactors for bone or for vascular growth and things like that. But then it gets all doctory and kind of weird. But yeah, there's a lot of science. And if anybody wants to follow me and send me a question about the science part, maybe there's some physical therapists or chiros or MDs or someone that's really into that part, I'd love to answer those questions too. But I kind of explain it to my patients. I did this morning something like this. In a damaged tissue in the body, Imagine like it's a traffic jam in the middle of the city where nothing's happening. In fact, the garbage people can't get there, so the trash is piling up. You can't get ambulances in if somebody's sick. It's just everything's stagnated. There's a lot of traffic. That's what happens in an injured part of our body. It gets tight, it gets stiff, it gets fibrosed, and blood flow isn't exchanging, and these nice chemicals and things that need to be stimulated for healing, it just doesn't happen very efficiently. And PEMF is like pushing that traffic through, speeding up their repair process in there so ambulances can get in, the garbage trucks can get the garbage out, and things can start to heal.
And so I had shockwave like we talked about for my foot, and I tried TENS, I tried stim with dry needling. How is PEMF different than those modalities?
Well, first of all, those are all great modalities, and some of those really effective for plantar fasciitis. So I don't think we should tell anybody to not use those things because sometimes they work, and I use all of those. I'm a huge fan of dry needling. I've done it for a decade. I use it a lot on my patients. We obviously have shockwave machines in our clinics, and I love stim in the needles as well. But PEMF, what's unique about it is it uses electromagnetic field energy, which our cells are super, super responsive to. One of the neat things that I learned when I was learning about PEMF is that the frequency that we use to stimulate healing in the body is very similar to the frequency that the earth and our bodies naturally emit at when they're healing. So we love going into nature on sand and around plants and trees. And trees actually emit at a frequency very similar, or plants do, and trees, to what we were using to heal your foot, Grayson. So yeah, so you start talking about megahertz and things like this. And another thing is some people may say, well, isn't electromagnetic energy harmful? And it can be. It can be if it's at too high of a frequency for too long. Like there's some interesting research around 5G phones and microwaves, don't put your head near the microwave when it's on, that kind of stuff. And so like just about any healing modality, if you do it a little, the body is responsive to it to trigger healing. If you do it too much, it can cause injury. Like Graston technique, scraping, if you do it a little, it stimulates healing. If you do it too much, too hard in an area, it could cause an injury. Same with cupping, same with dry needling, same with deep tissue massage. And so PEMF is like that, but it's different than the rest of these in that it uses electromagnetic field energy. And there's really not many things I know of that do that.
Very cool. And I think you have a demonstration for us of
I do, yeah. Yeah, hang on one second. I've got to get one of my assistants in here, and then somebody else will grab the phone, and I'll show you a little bit. But let me first do this. I'm going to try to figure out, there we go. I'm going to flip around here, okay? So I have a few things to demonstrate. So this is the unit that we used with you, Grayson. So it's called Electrons Plus. It's a Gen 3 machine, and you'll see on the top there's a plate. In the plate and in the machine itself is where the magnetic loop coils are. So they come through this little attachment and into this machine, okay? A traditional PEMF machine looks something like this. So inside this big box, electric current runs into one of these magnetic loop coils. And if you look inside this, there's actually magnetic loops inside this. So inside and around this loop, electromagnetic energy emits. And so we can put it around certain joints. We have small loops and big loops. And you may see this with paddles or mats. So let's do a demo now. I'm going to get Adriana to come in here. Okay, Adriana, ready for you. And I'm going to pass the phone over. So what we're going to do first is just demonstrate. Go ahead and have a seat here facing that way. Just the regular PEMF, okay? So I'm going to turn on this machine. You'll hear it fire up. And I'm going to first try it on me. Make sure the intensity is good. But you could probably hear a little bit of tapping that's happening. And that's the pulsing of the electromagnetic field that's around here. So if I put it on myself, turn up the intensity, you can see it shaking my shoulder here. So I'm going to turn that down so it's really comfortable for Adriana. It doesn't startle her. So say Adriana had a rotator cuff tear. We would just put this loop around her shoulder. Do you feel that, Adriana? Okay. And again, it's working even if you don't see it contracting, but sometimes there's a contraction. And I can turn the frequency so it's really slow. You can probably hear that. Or very fast. So we're pushing energy all through her shoulder now. And I've had these type of machines with these loops for about a decade now. And Grayson, the thing is with this, if I wanted to hit this exact spot, it was really hard for me to try to find that. So we were always saying, man, if we could just put that right on the spot where she has that injury, then it would be much more effective because we know the electromagnetic field really worked well for healing. So the great thing is, now we can. So Adriana, I'll have you lay face down. And we'll demo. Maybe come over on this side. So this is very similar to what we did with Grayson. Can I take your top off, Adriana? She specifically had a plantar fascial issue, but we just used, in this case, cocoa butter. And I'm going to do it, just show you maybe through her hamstring and calf, as you can see the muscle contraction. All right, so what I do is first we put the mat underneath her, so just roll up and relax down. I'm going to have you put your arms back like this. Keep going. For you in a second. I'll kick the machine on. You'll just hear some tapping. It's a right energy question at all, Grayson? I can hear you.
Oh, I was just saying I didn't feel anything with just the mat. Like you don't feel anything until you make contact with the patient.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if April looks over here, there's a grounding mat on the floor. And so when I put my foot on the grounding mat, especially with my shoe off, so I'm sliding my shoes off here, more current goes through Adriana into me. So if I just touch her, like I can feel it just a little, and she might feel it just slightly, but not much. But when I get on the grounding mat, you'll hear the energy change. And now I can feel pretty intensely this traveling through my fingers into Adriana's calf. Yeah, did you see it move her foot? There you go. So go ahead and back it up a little more. See your foot move there. And now our calf's starting to fire. When we first started, it wasn't very responsive. Is that comfortable for you, Adriana?
And it doesn't hurt, right? I can contest it doesn't hurt, but
No, it doesn't hurt. You have to do it in a certain order. For instance, I connected with Adriana first, and then on the grounding mat, because the current is coming from the machine through her into me, and I can control where it comes out, or really where I'm putting the current into. And so with Grayson, obviously, we were working into her foot, and she'll remember when we got to a spot right in here where her tear was, it got really intense and achy in there.
it did. That might be, it did hurt there.
Yeah.
There was pain there, but.
Yeah, you bet. And most healing modalities, there's a little bit of discomfort. But what I like about this is I can, if I put my entire hand on, there's almost no feeling. And as I go to less, you can see her toes move. You okay with that, Adriana? Okay. And the obviously you can see how responsive her muscles and fascia are to the energy that's going into the foot. So for plantar fasciitis, we always like to work, and we did this with Grayson quite a bit at the insertion point through here. We worked a lot into here because there can be a nerve entrapment issue. But was when we finally changed the frequency, moved on the machine, and then moved to seeing her daily, that we were able to get right into this spot and get enough healing where she, her pain relented. Well, you remember, Grayson.
Yep.
Less pain tonight, and then
Well.
into the future from there. So that's the demo of how guided PEMF works. So the difference is regular PEMF, like I said, uses loop coils or paddles, sometimes mats. There's a lot of machines that you can buy on the internet, and they're usually very weak, so you don't get a lot of energy. I think they're still beneficial, but don't be disappointed if you're watching this, you buy something for $100 off of Amazon and it doesn't work very well. The little machine I have over there in the corner is about $20,000, and the Electrons Plus machine right now is $36,000. So they're not cheap things to buy, but usually it's a very comfortable treatment. And one neat thing is, say we were dealing with a strained pulled calf or a hamstring strain, you would see in the side that was injured less response. Like, so you see right away she's firing up there. You can see that. And Adriana is a collegiate hurdler, loves to Orange Theory now, so she's in pretty good shape. So her muscles are really reactive to this. And what we're finding is that when we work into the damaged side, we're going to get less response. And something Grayson and I found was that it would be more intense through my fingers and less intense for her in the areas that were a little more damaged, until we found that really achy spot. So yeah, that's the demo on how regular PEMF and guided PEMF works. And then when I go to detach, I take my foot off the mat. And actually what I did is I had gone to my sock because the foot grounds too much. And then I disconnect from Adriana, throw my sock back on. And then that's it.
Great.
So if you want to put that back, April.
And
okay, I'm back.
You're one of a few people in the country right now with that machine, right?
Yes, that's right. There's only this particular unit, the Gen 3. I think there's like 25 of them floating around the country now, and only about 150 to 200 of even the old models. Thank you, ladies, altogether. So it's a fairly new and unique modality. That's why I'm so excited about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm always looking for new things to help athletes heal.
I guess for some other questions, so like I said before, my plantar was torn, and I think it probably started as plantar fasciitis and progressed to that. So one of the questions was, can plantar fasciitis lead to a tear? And I can answer that one, and yes, if you keep running on it. But people want to know, like, can you keep running on plantar fasciitis without tearing it or without taking time off? So basically, like, how can you heal this while maybe not taking 6 weeks off like I took?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Plantar fasciitis is really a tricky injury, because if this was a irritation of the fascia in your elbow or wrist, you just stop using that elbow or wrist. But with this type of issue, especially if you're an athlete, every step you take is slightly irritating this and slowing the healing process. So what I say is, yes, you can still be active through most plantar fascial injuries. There's, sometimes I back athletes down or patients down. I almost rarely put somebody on a crutch. We had some talks about this, or boots or things like that. I personally don't like that approach. I think movement heals. But what I try to do is moderate the intensity into the area. So I like taping to offload, and in between therapy that stimulates healing. So I like to do therapy, find a taping that's going to work for that athlete, and Grayson can attest to the fact that we probably tried four different tapings before we found one that worked. Yeah, and that's okay. That's your therapist or sports chiropractor or whoever it is should be willing to work with you and find something that helps offload this injury so you can gain a little progress on the healing. So any good therapy should stimulate the healing process, and then there should be something that makes sure we don't go backwards. Sometimes that's gauging how much you run. You might not be in your peak week, you know what I mean, hitting your high mileage when you're trying to heal at the same time. But generally, to answer that question, I think you can move through most of these injuries and heal if you have a good practitioner that knows what they're doing.
Do you think that orthotics, that was a question that came up a lot too, is that similar to taping, or are those separate?
It can be similar, especially if someone's on a hard, flat, compact surface. If they're road running all the time, that can be a good accommodation to make. Look, feet get stronger on variable and soft surfaces. So I'm a huge fan of getting out barefoot on any natural surface. I think that makes your feet stronger. That's how they were meant to be. But I'm also realistic that we spend 95% of our time not on those surfaces. We're on concrete and slate and hardwood and tile and asphalt and these kind of things that are really hard and flat, and our feet don't do well on those. So if you're on those, a good, properly fit custom orthotic can actually help you. And that should be married with the right kind of foot control exercises, the right kind of a variable training on these softer, varied surfaces. So the truth is really somewhere in the middle. I don't sit in one camp that says orthotics for everyone, or the other camp that says orthotics are trash. You should never have those. Your feet should be just natural. The real truth is in the middle, because we have hard man-made surfaces we live on. So that's what I. The most important
point I took of that is you're telling me everyone should be a trail runner.
Yes, 100%, Grayson. Absolutely. No, I mean, it's actually healthier for you to be out on single track, to be on natural surfaces, for your feet for sure. And not that people can't be resilient and adapt to any surface. That's a neat thing about athletic humans. But yeah, I think you're right. Everybody should climb mountains like you.
I agree. It's hard in Bozeman. It's hard not to, but
you bet.
What are your top 3 things you would recommend for people if they can't get out to see someone that has a PEMF machine? What are some things they can do at home themselves that would be like the most effective for plantar fasciitis?
Yeah, I like rolling. So either a water bottle filled up 3/4, okay, and then frozen, and then that'll give you some ice massage. Or I'm a big fan of a tennis ball. I think people get to too hard of lacrosse balls, golf balls, too hard of self-myofascial release. So I like a tennis ball and a water bottle. Self-massage is underrated. So getting in there and breaking some of that up yourself, you can find your spots. A lot of times the tender spot is where it needs work, again, where that traffic is backed up in there. I think that's really, really important. And then they're learning some self-taping techniques. There's a lot of great videos out there now for plantar fasciitis. You can use lots of different types of tape. I'm a huge fan of dynamic tape that returns some energy into the area. I think it's better for this type of injury than most kinesiology type tapes or rigid tapes. I'm not a huge fan of rigid tape for this kind of injury. So there's dynamic tape, I think, is the best thing that's out there for you to still be able to move, but to have the functional support to offload where the injury is coming from with this.
Good point. Yeah, the tape with me too, the stiff tape, I have like a sensitive foot, I think, so the stiff tape didn't respond well with me. And then also with shoes, are there certain types of shoes you'd recommend for maybe during running and then maybe like around the house that could be helpful? And can shoes also be a cause of plantar fasciitis?
Yeah, absolutely. Your foot needs to be able to move in your shoe, especially in your forefoot. Forefoot mobility is so important. So something with a little wider toe box, especially if you're running any distance and any mileage, because your feet will swell. That's important. I think that's one of the biggest things. There's 3 things I do when I look at a shoe. I look at how it bends. So any shoe should bend where your foot bends, okay? I squeeze at the back of the shoe, and this should not collapse really easy. If it just folds all the way in, it's probably not giving you enough functional support. And then lastly, I look here, and most people need a neutral shoe. Very few people need the kind that's really built up one way or another for overpronator. So those are 3 things that I look for in a shoe. And then obviously your toe box should have enough room for your foot to move in it. I think those are some of the biggest things. The other question was, can wrong shoes cause it? Yeah, absolutely. Too small, too big, too firm, too much, too many millimeters of drop, or not enough. If you're going from a 14 to a 0, you're running in a 14 mil drop down to an ultra with a 0, let's say, that's probably not fast change you want to make, and it's a recipe for a lot of business for Dr. John. So
We'll keep you in business.
yeah, I guess so. Well, there's enough active people. You know, I've got a job for sure. But no, I think Grayson, what I want to hear is a little about your journey. Like, you were dealing with this for 9 months.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it started probably, well, so I have torn my plantar before, so I think this was something is recurringly wrong on that side. So it's been hurting since probably January, and I noticed that spikes definitely made it worse, and trying to run fast on the track made it worse, and I posted that I tried everything under the sun, and I am not joking. Me and you tried a lot of things too. So I did try Shockwave, and I know that has worked in the past for some things for me, and just for whatever reason, this injury did not respond well to Shockwave, and I had probably 6 sessions of Shockwave with no difference after. At which point we were kind of, after talking with you, it's kind of like, this isn't working, we need to try something else. We did taping. I tried reducing inflammation with ginger and turmeric, ibuprofen kind of. I got the meloxicam, which was a stronger NSAID, and that seemed to help significantly, but that was kind of a last resort also. Dry needling I've tried, foot exercises, orthotics, rolling, soft tissue work. I feel like I tried almost everything, and pretty much the PEMF, and maybe we talked a little bit about nerve entrapment. Those seem to be like the 2 causes of pain, and there were only 2 things that really helped with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it can really be a frustrating journey. I think that's why people are tuning in and interested in this topic, because plantar fasciitis is such a game changer for some athletes that are out there, whether they're trying to do their first 5K or trying to run their first 50 miler or trying to run really fast and whatever they like to do. It can really be a cranky thing. And so I'd encourage people to ask their practitioners questions, kind of see what kind of tools they have and the experience they have with it, because any one of those modalities that Grayson mentioned didn't work for her might work for you. Typically a good practitioner will combine manual therapies with some amount of home care and therapeutic exercises. It's a little tough when you've got an elite athlete and they just need to get back to something, because you don't want to change too many things, so usually just getting them feeling better and they have their training plan. But like off season for Grayson would be, well, do you have an off season, Grayson?
Not really.
Yeah, right. See, that's the issue. But off season for Grayson would be a great time then to institute short foot, toe control, foot doming, probably some of these things she's, which I know she's already doing, but to really get good at some of that and some of the variable training on slant boards and with eccentric calf loading and things like this, which are all really, really good things. So you should get some manual therapy with it and some therapeutic exercise from a good practitioner. So ask those questions. If you're living somewhere and you don't know and you're frustrated and you want to send me a message, follow me and send me a message. I might have a really good sports chiro or physio friend that I could hook you up with if you're watching this. But yeah.
Or everyone can come visit you in Bozeman also.
Sure. It's a great place.
Yeah.
Grayson can attest to that fact. It's lovely here. So if you want to fly to one of the prettiest places in the world, come to Bozeman, get some treatment.
Yep. Well, thank you. And I'm sure, can people reach out to you if they have more questions?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to help. Yeah, that's what I've dedicated my whole professional career to, is helping athletes achieve. So I'm happy for this time to share. And thank you for sharing your story, Grayson. It's a story that a lot of athletes have, whether they're at a really elite level like you or just trying to do something active. Hopefully this helps somebody. That's my goal.
Plantar fasciitis does not discriminate, apparently.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for having on. And if anyone has questions, go follow Dr. John and ask him more questions. And thanks everyone for joining.
Bye.
Bye.